Okay, so we're continuing this journey into being transformed this summer. And on Sunday, we talked about that each man, each human, is three parts. You are a spirit, you have a soul, which is your mind, your will, and your emotions, and you live in a body. So how do we go about transforming those three parts? Well, obviously, the spirit is transformed when you become a Christian, when you're born again, like Jesus said. But there's a process to transforming the soul and transforming the body. And so I want to offer you some practical suggestions that you can apply this week as we begin this process through the summer. First of all, just like last time, I want you to think about one habit that you have that you want to see changed. Maybe you don't look people in the eye when they're talking to you. Maybe you interrupt people when they're talking. Maybe you just have an anger issue. Whatever it is, I want you to think of that one thing. And I want you to think about what would you do if you were going to retrain your body to stop doing that and start doing the opposite. Just think of some ways that you would go about that if it wasn't you, if it was somebody else. The second thing is, just like last time, we're going to confess. But see, confessing just isn't about talking to God and confessing sin. Confess means to speak. And so I want you to read Psalm 42 this week. The psalmist is going through a rough time, and he begins to speak to his body. He begins to speak to his soul about the good things. He begins to correct himself. And I want you to try that this week regarding that one thing. I want you to speak to your heart and say, "Heart, you're going to remind me as I sleep about God's goodness and how God wants me to operate." I want you to speak to your soul, to your emotions, and say, "Soul, emotions, mind, you're going to think about the good things that God is doing and how God wants me to conduct myself in those situations." And I want you to speak to your body and remind your body of how it should be operating instead of the way it's gotten into a habit of operating. It's going to feel weird, but try it out this week. You might be surprised. And then the last thing, obviously, is ask. Ask God to help you through this. Ask God to help you retrain your body. He's promised to come alongside you and I and help us. And this is how the transformation process works. So we're going to begin to go through this more each week, but let's start this week with the one thing, the one habit you want to change. And when you're in the situation all week long and you find yourself falling into that habit again, correct yourself. Start right again. Think about what you want to accomplish. Confess, speak to your body and say, "No, we're not going to do that anymore." And ask God to help you. All right? I'll talk to you next week.